Well, I've been going to Cannon Beach since I was about 6 years old. And I went down with my parents and my uncle and cousins, etc. And we walked down to the rock. And I'm looking around and, well, what are those little guys? First thing that catches your eye is just their look with the gold hanging off and the orange beaks. They're just beautiful little birds. They're the kind of clowns of the sea.
I think people love puffins. People see a picture of a puffin and they think they're this really cute, amazing, charismatic bird. But I think a lot of people don't realize that they're really struggling right now in Oregon. Their population just a couple decades ago was around 5,000 birds, and right now we think they're around about 500 birds.
So tufted puffins have declined by approximately 90%, or at least 90%, over the last 40 years or so. And this is not limited to Oregon. This is something that's occurred at most tufted puffin colonies across the California current, and many colonies actually in the Gulf of Alaska as well. And the broad scale of those declines suggests there's some kind of a common ecological factor that may be at play. And one of the leading hypotheses for why puffins have declined, it relates to food, available food. We know that the water temperature has warmed in the California current over time, especially in recent years, due to climate change. And oceans generally are just not as productive when the water temperature is warmer. And so for a seabird, they need abundant forage fish. Forage broadly, it just isn't as abundant when the water temperature is warmer. And so that's one of the leading hypotheses for why. But there are likely many contributing factors. I mean, you can have 4 or 5 different things going on at the same time.
And that's a big piece of the puzzle, because in order for us to address the decline and to halt the decline, we need to determine what the best actions are to do so. So just recently, a group of key players here in Oregon came together over the course of a year to develop Oregon's first conservation action plan for the tufted puffin. And really what this plan is it has a 10-year goal of halting the decline. It lists 5 objectives, which include research, management and restoration, policy, and then outreach, education, and engagement, and then finally collaboration. But there had not yet been a comprehensive approach to their conservation. So the working group is made up of agencies, it's made up of nonprofits, it's made up of researchers, and so we get all these brilliant minds coming together to help determine what the priority actions should be for the tufted puffin here in Oregon. We have been monitoring Haystack Rock and Cannon Beach very closely for the last 14 plus years, and that's in part because it's incredibly accessible for us to do that. But we are now, and especially Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, is looking at places that we can do other land-based surveys to really get a good sense about what the population is here in Oregon. So we are doing a habitat assessment along the coast using drones, which is a fairly new technology for seabird research, and it is really bringing a lot of the key players together to collaborate. With a permit from the Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and with the support of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, we flew drones at Haystack Rock in Pacific City. The hope was to get a better understanding of the habitat, to see if we could identify burrows, and also to see if the birds would react to the drone, because drones do provide us with a potential way to monitor habitat for seabirds without the cost of, say, a helicopter. I think it was a very successful first flight.
Basically, we're trying to see if we can get images, clear images of puffins, do some habitat assessments, and experiment with the use of thermal to identify birds on the rocks. We got some really good images, but I'm really excited to get it back on a computer big screen and really check out what we got.
What makes me nervous is in Oregon, I mean, we only have 500 or so nesting pairs. At many colonies, there aren't puffins there any longer. And so sometimes you get smaller numbers of individuals. Those colonies and those populations are more likely to dwindle.
You know, seabirds and tufted puffins are kind of a canary in the coal mine of the health of the marine ecosystem. So if seabirds are not doing well and tufted puffins are not doing well, then we need to be concerned about our ocean ecosystem.
So as we learn more, we need to be able to change course if that's what the science is telling us. And I will say that the conservation action plan that we built is meant to be a working plan, meaning that we will meet regularly and we will adjust it as needed as we learn more.
Yeah, I have a lot of hope for the tufted puffin. They're a species that people love. You know, I think it's not hard for people to really embrace the tufted puffin. They look really cool. It's a species that is a great hook to get people to care about the species. So I think that gives me a lot of hope. And I think there are a lot of really good people, a lot of good scientists, people in our agencies that we need to keep.
The people I'm working with give me a lot of hope. There is a lot of passion going into this work with not a lot of resources, but the right people are behind the steering wheel, so to speak, and there is progress being made, and so that definitely gives me hope. I think that the more people that are aware of tufted puffins and appreciate the tufted puffins, the better we'll be able to push forward with the work we're doing.
And one of the things that both Friends of Haystack Rock and Haystack Rock Awareness is concerned about is how people interface with the rock, with the tide pools, and do they look at it in awe and say we need to take care of it, or do they walk around and tromp on the anemones and try to climb the rock? And so we need to educate the people that this is a special place. It belongs to you, but don't ruin it. We have to stop the decline. We have to change the direction of the current.